Grab your dice, Wargamers, because today the joy of Wargaming is taking you on the road with the wonderful, portable, all-purpose fantasy skirmish gaming set. And we're going to be playing a battle using Andreas Feligoy's wonderful A Song of Blades and Heroes rule set. I've got the first edition and just the basic rules. There are a lot of supplements for this that can add to your wargaming enjoyment. Since this is an introductory scenario, and I'm running you through the rules, we're playing a bit of a smaller war game, just 120 points on each side. A normal game will consist of closer to 300 to 500. It's a great little skirmish rule set. It kind of hits that sweet spot between just enough and not enough. Your figures each have only two stats. They've got a quality stat and a combat stat. The quality stat is used for activation and morale, as we'll see in a moment, and combat is used for combat. No kidding. Combat's very simple. It's just a simple D6 roll-off. Add your combat skill, any modifiers, and, bad things happen to the loser. Movement is a little different, and I'm just going to show you how you do movement by running through the rules here real quick. But essentially, instead of measuring with a tape, you've got nice little movement sticks that you can make. And Andrea is kind enough to tell you how long to make these sticks. You can use a ruler if you want to, but I couldn't even tell you how long these are. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is that I've got the proportions right, and if I recall correctly, I scaled these sticks to the 10mm figures that we're using in our travel kit. So these sticks are used a little bit different. As I said, the activation for these guys, and maybe I should run through the stats real quick. Our elves have a quality of 2, and all of our goblins have a quality of 4. You can see them off in the distance there. There's 2 wolf riders, and there are 2 dudes on foot with hand weapons. They've got a quality of 4, and so when you want to do something, you have to roll a d6, and if you can meet or beat your quality, you get to take an action. You can take up to 3 actions. If you fail, if you roll 2 failures, your turn is over, and it kicks over to the next guy. So what this means is essentially that you can play it safe, which we're going to do on this first move. This old boy, actually we're going to move this old boy first, and he's going to try to take 1 action. And I roll a d6, and I beat his quality of 6, which means he gets to move a light distance. And all you got to do is put the stick on the border of your boy, and then he can end his movement as long as he's adjacent to the stick anywhere in there. So it gives him a straight line plus about a base width on either side of the stick. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and lay this stick right here on the bridge. And he's going to move so he's still in contact to right there and fall over. Apparently he's been dipping into the elvish wine a little too much. So we'll pull him back. So he's right there. Now, because this is my last guy, a little bit of gaminess in here, but yeah, whatever. This is my next guy. He's my last guy. I'm going to roll 3 dice, and he gets to take 3 actions. I've got 3 successes because I rolled 3 dice greater than 2. So 3 actions means he gets to move 3 times, and this is where rounding corners comes into play. I can lay my stick down and drop him there. Now here's the question. Do I really want him to run up all by his lonesome? I don't think I do. I think I'm going to run to there and then hold. Now I do have a 3 action, but I don't have to use it. And that's it. With both of the elvish boys done, the game kicks over to the goblins. The goblins have a little tougher time because they only go on a 4, 5, or 6. So as before, I'm going to roll for the footman on that side and then the footman on that side. I'm just going to roll 1 and 2. So you can see they both failed, so they're not going to do anything. Likewise, I'm going to play a little bit more carefully with the guy with the wolf rider on the left and try to take 2 actions. Now, I only rolled 1 success, but I didn't roll 2 failures. So the turn does not kick over to the elves just yet. Drop my measuring stick, and everybody in this case moves medium. If you have a particularly fast runner, he would be moving along. On to our last guy, and again, it doesn't matter if I roll 2 failures because play is going to kick over anyway. I only roll 1 success with him, so he's going to shoot that gap right there. you can clamber over obstacles. You just reduce your movement down to the next. So it costs you that much movement. You move short instead of medium. A fast individual trying to clamber over those hedges would go from long to short. So initiative kicks back over to our elves, and this time I'm going to nominate this guy first, and he rolls 2 successes, so he can charge 1, and I think he'll come around this way. So cavalry are pretty quick. And I'll roll all 3. I might as well take 3 actions. And I only get 2 successes for this guy. So he's going to come around this way. And call it a turn. Giddy up. Moving back over to the goblins in the corner. We're going to start with the foot slogger on the left, who gets nothing, and the foot slogger on the right, who finally musters up enough courage to follow his mounted guys, and he's going to run through. You can move through allies who are not engaged in combat. And now we're going to try to move the wolf rider on the right, on your left. He gets 1, and he's just going to move to here. Now, he doesn't have to move the full medium. I think I'm going to stop him right there. He's feeling a little intimidated. That guy does not move, and that's why he's intimidated, because he knows his allies are extremely unreliable. So, starting with this guy, we're going to go ahead and try to roll. Let's go ahead. I got to judge how far it is. If I roll 3 successes, I think I can move up and engage that guy, which is what I want to try to do. Well, I only get to 2. So now I have to decide, do I want to engage him? And I think I do. Because while I can't attack, he does not, well, I shouldn't say I. He can't attack. He doesn't have the activation to do so. But he might be able to. So we're going to roll 3 dice. And we encounter the same situation. But at least now here, I can't, once again, for my terrain pieces, the entire piece is counted as whatever the major piece is. So in this case, it's not the water that is uncrossable, it is the entire terrain piece. So I place my measuring stick there, and he can stop anywhere along this stick that he wants. So you can kind of come around the corner a little bit with just 1 move, but that's not what we want to do. We're going to ride up and we're going to engage. So that puts pressure on the goblins because we've got a 2-to-1 combat there. And we're going to start by trying to bring up some reinforcements. We're going to bring up him with 2 actions. And he gets 2 successes. Now, he is less than 1 medium away. So he can ride up and engage him. And now we've got an even Stevens fight. So with the second success, he's going to attack. And we will decide that our attackers, since our white dice are our activation dice, in any combat we run today, we're going to use our free gcmini.com die that I got with one of my orders. Thank you, GC Mini. This is not a paid endorsement, just a recommendation from a fan. That will be the die for the defender, and that will be the die for the attacker. Now, as I said, the elves have a combat of 3, and the goblins have a combat of, well, the wolf riders have a combat of 3, and the foot guys have a combat of 2. So we are at evens, so we're going to roll these dice and add 3 to both dice. And our defender in this case, the gcmini.com, is a 6. So we actually have a tie. In the event of a straight tie, nothing happens. Sorry, goblins. Moving right along to the foot boy, who's going to try to take 2 actions because he wants to get involved, and he gets nothing. And then our foot guy way in the back, remember, we're looking for 4s. He gets 2 actions. So that will be enough to move up to here. And then on that second move, he can come around and flank our elf on that side. But he cannot attack because he just doesn't have the gumption. So in this case, we'll kick over to the elves, and we're going to start with this guy. We've got our even attack. Now, one of the things you can do in combat is you can try to do a mighty blow. If you get 2 actions, you can... Where did my cheat sheet go? You can force your opponent to subtract 1 from his die. And that's important, because if you beat your opponent, something bad happens. If you double him, then you kill him. If you triple his score, not only do you kill him, but it's called a gruesome kill, and it forces every ally within long distance to make a morale check. They have to roll 3d6 against their quality, and for every failure, they skedaddle back to the side they came from. And this is where the speed of the elves comes into play, because if they can force morale checks, they may force the goblins right off the table. In order to do that, we need to roll 2 successes, which with a 2, 4, and 5, we actually get 3 successes. The third one, I think, is wasted. I may need to double check the rules on that. At any rate, what we're looking at is a mounted versus mounted. It's a 3 versus 3. However, the goblin is going to subtract 1 from that orange die, and we'll see what happens. So, with a 6 against a 4, clearly the elf wins. Little quirky part about this combat system is that if the winner has rolled, and we just look at the die here, not the total, if the winner has rolled an even number, then his opponent is fallen. It takes a success to stand back up, which forces an awkward decision onto the goblin player, because if you're fallen, you fight at a +2. Had this die won, had this been a 7 on the 6-sided die, then it would have forced the goblin to retreat 1 base width. But it wasn't a 7, it was a 6. So we move on to the second combat. Because this elf is outnumbered by 1 figure, he has a -1 to his roll. So he's going to compensate for that by attacking the guy on foot. A mounted attacking a guy on foot gets a +1. So he is at -1, but that goes to +1. And we are at a combat quality of 3 versus a combat quality of 2. This becomes a 6. This becomes a 7. Which means Mr. Elf has lost. And, as I said, when you have a odd roll, it forces you to retreat in any direction you want by 1 base width. If you are in combat with an enemy, you simply recoil by, which is going to, well, let's see. If you don't have room to recoil, and I think that's the position that Mr. Elf has found himself in, because he's got enemies on all 3 sides, he has to recoil away from this guy. I think maybe what he can do is recoil to there, which is bad news. That's 1 away. He's shielded, and that's it for their turn. On the goblin's turn, they're going to play it safe. They're going to try to move him up to engage with him. And on a 4, if we check our distances, he absolutely does so. Now, he's going to do that to pin him in place so that when, well, we'll see what happens next. I think the next move is to try to get him back on his feet. We're going to roll 2 dice for that. And that is going to be just 1 success is enough for him to stand up. And now when he fights, at least it won't be at with the elf having a +2. Got to get these guys into combat. We're going to roll 2 dice for him. He's got, he needs 4. You know what? We're going to go with 3 dice. We need those 2 successes. We got him. So he moves in and he conducts his attack. So that means that now we're at a combat of 3 versus 3. They're all mounted, but he is at a -1. So it's actually going to be a +2 for the orange die, which brings us to 5, and a +3 for that, which is 7. So that forces him, again, oh, no, it knocks him over. This is an even success. It's a winner. and it knocks him down. For the last of the goblins to go, we're going to roll 3 dice. This is that last foot slaughter who can move up, and now Mr. Elf Cavalry is in big trouble because he gets a +2. So this goblin now has a combat quality of +4 to his die roll. 2 for his combat, +2 for attacking a fallen foe. However, he is still mounted versus foot, so he does get a +1 back. Okay, he is at a -1, -2, which puts his quality at a 1. He is at a 3, +2, which puts his quality, at a +4. So +1 and +4. And let's just see what happens. So 3 and 8, that's a doubling, that's a kill. So the soulless elf goes off to wherever it is creatures who don't have souls go. And it is the elf's turn. He is a game fellow, so he's going to roll 3 dice and see if he can knock off that foot guy before the rest of them close in. With 2 successes, he gets a mighty blow, so he's attacking at a +4 to the foot guy's +2. So we're going to add 4 to the white die. And we get a 5, and we get a 4 here. Our victory is an odd number, which means he's forced to retreat. And that's all that our elven cavalry manages to do this turn. The goblins are going to play it safe. They're going to roll 1 die for him and get a success. He moves up to contact. The other foot slaughter also gets a success. He's going to come around the backside. That's all he's going to do. The first of the wolf riders is going to try to engage the front, and he fails both. So the goblin turn is over, and it is on. So 2 failures. He had to get at least 1 4. Didn't happen, which means we move back onto the elven turn, and he's going to go ahead and roll for 3 chances. He gets his 2 successes, so he is fighting now at a +2 against the goblins. He's going to add 5 to his roll. Oh, he's outnumbered. He's only going to add 4. He's got a 3, +1 for the mighty blow, -1 for being outnumbered, +1 because he's fighting foot troops. So that would be 3, 4, 5, 4. So add 4 to the roll, add 2 to the roll. 7 and a 4 forces a retreat. And we'll just pick that guy. But it goes on to the goblins. Being outnumbered 4 to 1 is not a good idea. So we're going to roll 2 dice for this goblin, and all we need is 1 success, which we get. We're going to roll 2 dice for this goblin, and we're not going to get any successes. So we kick back over to the elf, who gets no successes. We're going to start with this guy. We get our 1 success. Now, the reason they're enveloping the field is because with this last guy, I'm going to roll 3 dice. And with 2 successes, that allows him to engage, and he's got 1 more point to attack. They're both going to add 3 for their combat skill. The difference here is he loses 1, 2, 3, and if he loses this combat, there's nowhere to retreat, he dies. So we're rolling a straight D6 with the orange, and we're rolling a +3 with the white die. And as you can see, that's going to be a 3 and a 7, and at a doubling, he's gone. And that is the end of our scenario. So the goblins have not only discovered that this brook represents the limits of the elven terrain, the elven kingdom, now they can report back home to their big bosses, who will launch a full-scale invasion. When the elves failed to report back, The Elven King will, of course, not sit idly on his throne. He will dispatch a force to meet them. And that will be our next game of A Song of Blades and Heroes in 10 millimeters. And that is how you play A Song of Blades and Heroes. Now, those of you that were paying attention earlier in the video, those of you that have a lot of experience with this game, will realize that I did something a little bit wrong. When the first elf cavalry died, his buddy should have made a morale check. We'll get it right the next time. It's first time for everything, and I really just wanted to run through the rules with you really quick so you get a feel for how they work, and then we would be ready for the big battle in the next episode, which will feature the goblins taking advantage of their scouting and the smashing success of their scouts to launch a probing attack with in force. This is a skirmish game, not a big block game, so we'll put together a couple of new army rules, a couple of new army lists for both sides. We'll shoot for somewhere around 400 points on each of those, and circle back around, set up some new terrain, and see what other fun we can get up to with our traveling road show, or should I say our traveling wargame road show. In the meantime, go forth, enjoy your games, always roll crits, and may the good Lord keep and bless you.